Now, the last thing that we were able to do is to discuss number 7 a little bit. So what we said is that they need the diameter. So basically you need the x. So when you read a problem like that, you need to decide what is given and what is it that you need to find. And y is given to be 50. So if this is the case, then you have to do the following steps when y is given. You need to put your equation that you found in y1, and you need to put y2, y equals 50 in y2. So you put 50 in y2. Now remember that whenever you try to graph this, so let me make this smaller so you can actually see it. Okay, so if I graph this, the only way I can be able to see the intersection between the two graphs is if I fix my window. So you need to move on to y max, and instead of a 10, make sure that you have a number higher than a 50. So in this case, I chose 70, and you graph it. Now, what you're interested in is the intersection between the two graphs. Now remember, this is a negative part of the graph. It will give you x that's negative, and as you can see, x is diameter of a circle. It can never be negative. So this is the intersection that you are interested in. Do you remember how to find the intersection of two graphs on the calculator? You go to second, trace. Make sure that you write down the steps because there's a lot of calculator steps in this lesson. And then you move on to number 5, which is the intersection. Now remember, since I have two intersections, I need to let the calculator know that I want this one. So you move the cursor to the right of your graph. Now this is good enough. And then you press enter 3 times. Once you do that, as you can see, the cursor now is on the point of intersection and tells you for a y of 50, I have an x of a 4.58 or 4.59 or 4.6 if you want. So I know then for a diameter of 4.6 centimeters, I'll be able to fill the circle with 50 beans. So let's record the information that we just found. So let me make this bigger. Okay, so then I can say that for 50 beans, I should have a diameter of a 4.6. Okay. Now go ahead, pause the video and try to do the same thing for 100 and 1,000, and then we're going to discuss it together. I do hope that you pause the video, and remember, since y is given, I go to y2 and put 100 in y2. And remember, what goes in y1 is the equation that you just found. Okay? You graph it. Now, I can see my first graph, which is the y1, but I do not see the y2. And the reason behind that is that y2 is 100, and my y maximum is a 70. It will only show me up to a 70. So I need to go down and put my y maximum to be a number higher than 100. So I put 150. Now, if you graph it, you will see the whole thing. You will see the first graph and the second graph. And again, you are interested in the intersection. So I do second trace, number 5 for intersect, move the cursor to the right and press enter 3 times. And I can see the cursor is on the point of intersection, and for a y of 100, I have an x of 6.6. So let me go back and record the information. So to have 100 beans, I have to have a diameter, or a circle of diameter, 6.6. Now I do hope that you tried the 1,000, and you will see that to have 1,000 beans, you need a circle of diameter 21.4. So make sure that you do that. So this is what you do when y is given and you need to find x. Now let's move on to number 8. Predict the number of beans you would expect to fit into a circle with a diameter of 30.5. So in this problem, x is given. So see why it's very important to identify from the beginning what is x and what is y. In this case, the x, which is the diameter of the circle, is 30.5 centimeters, and you need to find y. Now, to be honest with you, there are two ways to do that, so I'm going to show you both ways, and it's up to you which one you prefer. Now, the first method is, since you like second trace a lot, I'm going to start with that. you need to go to second trace, and you need to press number 1 value. It means you have the x value. Okay, so you press number 1. So you go to second trace and then number 1. Now it will ask you, you want the value for what x? So I want 30.5. Okay, so you type in x equals 30.5. Now most likely when you press enter, it's gonna tell you invalid. And do you know why? Because I entered an x value that is way bigger than the window that I have. What is, so let me quit. Now what is the x maximum that I have over here? 10, right? And you want an x of a 30.5, so you need to have an x maximum that's higher than that number. Okay, so now if you do second trace again and do number 1, because now you have the x value, you can enter it. It will ask you for the x, right? So we didn't graph it, so let's do this again. Okay, so it did ask me for the x value, and I enter the value to be 30.5, and I press enter. Now there is 30.5 in my graph. Before it was just 10, so that's why it told me invalid. So you need to fix your window to be higher than the number that you want. And it told me that if I have a diameter of a 30.5, then I can fit 2,400 beans. Okay, or you can say 2005. Did I say 2,400? 2005 beans, because you need to round. Okay, so this is one way. Remember, you go to second trace, but this time you are interested in the value because you have the x value. You put 1. It will ask you for the x. Remember that the x should not be greater than the window that you have, so you need to fix your window if you need to. So this is one way. Okay, now another way is that you can go to second and then press window. So basically table set. Okay, second window. And remember, x is the independent value, right? Instead of auto, go back to ask. Okay, so move it to ask and press enter. It means you want the calculator to ask you for the independent value. It means you need the calculator to ask you for the x value. Okay, now when you go to second graph, okay, you'll see that the table is empty. It's because it's going to ask you for the x value, and you tell her, or tell the calculator, that I want a 30.5, and you press enter. So as you can see, it gives you the y1. Okay, as you can see, there's a y2 because I do have a y2 over here. If that bothers you, you can go down and erase it. Okay, clear that. Okay, so you go to second, remember, window, which is the table set. You move the independent to ask. Okay, then you go to second graph, and you enter the x value, and it tells you that the y1 is 2005. It means for a diameter of 30.5 centimeters, I need 2005 beans. Okay, now choose any method that you like, and I'm going to add a question. Let's say I want a diameter of, so let's say x is equal to 20 centimeters. Okay, what do you think y would be? So I gave you the x value. Go ahead, pause the video, and try to do this on your own. Okay, so I'm going to do it both ways. I go to second. Remember, I'm going to go do the steps again. You go to second window. Make sure that the independent is on ask. Then you go to second graph, and you type in 20 because you have the x value to be 20. And it will tell you that for a diameter of 20, I need 869.71 beans. So basically round up 870, or you can just say 869 beans. I will take both answers because you cannot have a quarter or 0.71 of a bean. So you can say 869 beans. This is one way. The other way is to go to second trace and press number 1, which is value. And remember that your window, your x maximum of the window should be higher than your x. Let me make sure that it's true. So my x maximum is 40 and I want an x over 20, so I'm good, okay? So you go to second trace, number 1, and you type in 20, press enter, and it gives me the same answer, 869 beans. So as you can see, there's a lot of calculator steps that you need to follow. I do have the calculator steps on the left side of your notebook. Read through that, make sure that you memorize the steps, and highlight the things that you need to remember. You can watch the video again if you want to see me going through the steps again. And this is it, okay? Now let's move on to number 9. What is a reasonable domain and range in the context of the problem? Now, domain. Domain basically has to do with the x. So you can have a diameter of a 0, basically have no circle. And the diameter can go up to, let's say, infinity, no matter what. Like, you can always think of a higher number. So, but the domain, which is the diameter of a circle, can never be a negative number. So you can think of the domain to be from 0 to infinity. The same thing for the range. The range cannot be a negative because it's a number of beans. So you can have 0 number of beans up to infinity. So that's another reasonable domain. Because, like, what would be a high number you can think of? Like, if somebody can come up with a number, I can come up with a bigger number, and then we have a bigger circle, and so on. So that would be a reasonable domain and range. Okay, so that's it. Remember that you need to put the beans back into the bags in the front of the room so other classes can use them. And make sure that you take the practice, and it's due on Monday. Again, if you need to watch the videos, you can do that. Thank you for paying attention, and have a nice day.